Journey to Naturopathy and Terrain Medicine with Dr. Melina Roberts. Allergies, eczema, and child nutrition. Dive into the world of naturopathy with Dr. Melina Roberts, who transformed her struggles with allergies and eczema into a healing journey. In this interview, we explore terrain medicine's transformative impact on health perception and tackle the 6 stressors interfering with our body's proper functioning. We also delve into Dr. Roberts' unique food introduction programs for children based on building a healthy microbiome, understanding maturation. I hope I said that right. And promoting natural, nutrient dense foods. Don't miss this enlightening discussion. Welcome to the Wellness Driven Life Show, where you're about to go on a wellness driven ride. Welcome, and let me share a little bit more about the guests that we have here today. Dr. Melina Roberts is a naturopathic doctor, author of Building a Healthy Child, TEDx speaker, and founder of Advanced Naturopathic Medicine Center in Calgary, Canada. She has been featured in ABC, NBC, Fox, CW, CBS, Canada News Journal, and many more. She is recognized as one of North America's top bioregulatory medicine practitioners. She is a leading authority in naturopathic medicine, specializing in bioregulatory medicine. I said that twice, effectively treating digestive issues, complex chronic disease, and cancer. I am so pleased to welcome to the stage Dr. Melina Roberts. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, April. I'm so excited to be here.
It's a pleasure. And so let's start by sharing with the audience a little bit more about you.
Okay. I'll tell you my story of how I really got into naturopathic medicine. And really that starts from my childhood. So I was a kid who had really bad allergies and eczema, and I'd break out in a rash to pretty much everything I ate, and even anything that was in the environment. So if I was playing outside in the grass, I would break out into a rash. And when I would break out into a rash, I would just itch my skin until it would bleed. And this was mostly my life. And that was just something that I thought I was just going to have to learn to live with. When I was about 13, my parents, a family friend actually said to my parents, you should try taking her to see a naturopathic doctor. And so they brought me to see a naturopathic doctor. And within a few months of seeing this doctor and following his plan, all of my allergies cleared up. So to me, it was like magic because I really didn't understand how it all worked. So that was kind of my first introduction to naturopathic medicine. And it was really helped me to realize that the body had this ability to be able to heal itself. I think before that, I didn't really have that realization, but that really propelled me into deciding to go into naturopathic medicine. So, kind of fast forward into my education, I attended the Naturopathic College in Toronto, Canada, and I went through, did my schooling through that. But what happened when I was in my second year at the Naturopathic College, my dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So at that point in time, I didn't really know anything about cancer or how to treat cancer. But I just started doing a bunch of research into natural approaches to treating cancer. And what I was surprised to find was that within the scientific literature, there was a lot of information in terms of how to treat cancer naturally. So that started my journey in terms of researching that. Unfortunately, my dad died like 9 short months later. So I wasn't able to help my dad, but that really started my journey in terms of researching into how to treat cancer. And so then after I finished at the naturopathic college, I just went in search of different clinics and practitioners that were having success treating cancer. And that's how I really found myself into something called European bioregulatory medicine. And I started doing some training into bioregulatory medicine. And I was amazed that, that there was practitioners that were having success treating cancer. And what I did was I just brought all that information, all that testing, therapies, back to North America, back to Canada, so that I could start using those therapies, as well as those testing, to see what was going on with my patients, and I could start utilizing that and using that in terms of therapies that I use in my clinic now to treat my patients. So that's sort of the journey into how I practice. And then I have a little bit of a journey in terms of, in terms of my book, which is a little bit different, but it also explains it, because then, you're using naturopathic medicine, and then I get pregnant and have a child and think, well, like, how can I make sure that my child is healthy, and that we make sure that my kid, that we build my child's health correctly from the beginning, so that we can prevent all of those chronic diseases in her future. And is that possible? And, and then the research I came across helped me to realize, yeah, that is possible. Like, that we can build health right from the beginning. So I don't know if you want me to go into some of the things what I came across in terms of that, but
of course. Well,
not letting you get a word in edgewise.
No, I mean, because your story just it's so powerful. And yes, I want to allow you to have the space for that, because it's very impactful. But I do want to go back a little bit and talk briefly about some of these experiences. This is starting from the very get-go at childhood with your experience in naturopathy. I mean, not very many of us have that opportunity, where we're given the experience like that. The way that the healthcare system is built, we're all kind of a product of the system that we're given, and that is, dominant. So because of that, this really inspired you and opened up your mind incredibly. And if it wasn't for the difficulties and challenges you were having physically with the eczema, etc., you never would have gotten to a place where you needed those sort of things. And you never would have known that, and been amazed by the impact that food and our diet and what we put in, on, and around our bodies have such a great effect on us and our overall well-being and health. So I love that you were given that at such a young age. Because of that, it sparked you wanting to learn more, to be this light in the world. And so you educated yourself, you dived right in, and you had all of these burning questions of, why is this? What's the science behind it? So you put yourself through school, and then you come to this, world and light where you're serving others with the knowledge that you have. And the story of your dad, another great impact. Dr. Melina, the reason I bring this up is because it just tells me that you are supposed to be this massive impact and light in the world, because you've had these experiences come to you. And I like to liken it to, when you go in a soulful journey, right? That we bring ourselves through these experiences in order to get the knowledge and inspiration to learn and grow from it, and
Yeah.
then to inspire and impact the world around us through those experiences. And so when it comes to your dad, and they're painful, right? It's not fun being sick. It's not fun
Yeah.
losing our loved ones. And at the same time, those opportunities, those learning gifts, uh, push us to want to learn more and want to research more. If my
Yeah.
dad has cancer, I want to know, how do we heal from cancer? Where are all of the other studies being conducted? And, then you have a child. And now you're like, well, I want to get this started from the get-go, from the start of life, the
Yeah.
beginning of life, so this doesn't happen. And
Yeah.
so it's just a beautiful transitioning with your life, the way that it has navigated you to where you are now.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's I think that all of those life journeys are what help to evolve. Because like, like if you were to ask me, I don't know, um, like as I was going through high school, if I wanted to be a naturopathic doctor, I wouldn't have had any idea like if that was going to be my journey. But yeah, this is what, life happens, and then this is how the life evolves, right? And even in terms of my book, like I I kind of developed that information for my daughter, and then I was sharing that information with my patients, and then my patients were like, this should really be in a book. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I guess I could make it into a book so then I can share it with a wider audience." And then that's how the book evolves, right? So it's kind of like naturally and organically comes together as opposed to being manufactured. Yeah.
That's a really cool thing about life, when we start to follow those inspirations that we have, when we're following uh, I don't know, our light, for a better lack of words, the things that we're most excited about, then things start to fall into place. And
Yeah.
and it is through that excitement is birthed the creation of something. And where we met is,
Yeah.
you were a speaker on stage. And
Yeah.
so, all of these things have led you into something new. So you started out with a practice, you became inspired, you went into further research, you brought this to your the patients that you
Yeah.
serve, and then you also started to share that with them, and they're like, I want this in writing so I can
Yeah.
apply it
Yeah.
at home, so I don't have to remember what you said here in the office, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then the book is birthed. And then because the book is birthed, now you start sharing that on stage with another audience. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about that journey as well. Melina, what inspired you to really start sharing your story and your journey to another audience outside of your practice?
Well, I think I think that what you realize when you're practicing is that like you can only influence a certain a finite number of patients when you're in practice, right? It's the people who are able to physically come in to see you and really can
Mm.
afford to see you as well, because like in terms of our medicine, it's people are paying out of pocket for to see me. So I think that in terms of that, you have lots of information and lots of knowledge that I can share, and sharing it in a book is one way to reach a wider audience. But I think that in terms of then I get into lecturing to other professionals. And that's again where I started, just lecturing and teaching, and then you realize that you can actually transform that knowledge into information that could be good for the public. So then I start doing lectures and for the public, and then that expands into speaking on bigger stages. And so you're speaking on bigger stages and educating more people on how the body has this amazing ability to be able to heal itself if we set up the right environment for it to do so. And then things get recorded, and then it gets on to even wider audiences, because then you're on the internet. So that's really how it's all evolved. I've been practicing for 20 years now, so it has been a journey of smaller stages to larger stages, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was so inspired by you when you were on stage through your story and your journey. And I love how much you talk about that the body is capable of healing itself.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what has been your experience on the audience that doesn't really have an idea or knowledge of that? Do you feel that it's still very, very common for people to not have that understanding? Or do you feel like it's really starting to expand as a more common knowledge?
I think that what I really try to focus on for patients is I don't want to make it like too too big of something that no one thinks that they're able to grasp it, or it's out of reach for most people. Really, I believe that we all have we all within us have this amazing ability to heal ourselves. And all we have to do is set up that right environment to do so. And really what it comes back down to is like basics, right? So it's, like the foods that we eat, toxins that we're exposed to, getting proper sleep, getting water intake, going outside and connecting with nature and the earth. It's really just, to me, it's getting back to basics. It's moving our bodies. It's our connection with community. It's how we think. So all of those things, when we get down to the basics, is all something that everyone has access to. We can all be doing things that are going to help to shift our body into balance. I think sometimes when we get into naturopathic medicine, and then we get into functional medicine, and we get into bioregulatory medicine, like these are just big terms, and people are say, oh, I don't really know what that is. I don't really understand that. But if you just get back to basics, this is what our bodies are designed to do. Our bodies are designed to heal itself. And we just need to clear out things that aren't allowing it to heal itself. We just have to clean up that, I call it the terrain. We have to clean up the terrain, move everything else out of the way, and then just allow the body to do what it naturally does best. And I think that when people realize that we all have access to that, our bodies are all able to do that, I think that's really motivating. It's not out of reach for us.
Right. And there's so many ways that you can do it, regardless of circumstance, finance. There are
Yeah.
ways to hit all of those buckets, so to
Yeah.
speak, in some form or capacity, or at least, a number of them
Yeah.
in some
Yeah.
form or capacity, right? And that's a good start.
Yeah.
So when we talk about this terrain aspect, can you shed a little bit more light on what that is and what it means to you?
Yeah. So, what I really describe as terrain is like basically in terms of bioregulatory medicine, there's like three main aspects of it. One is the understanding that the body has an amazing ability to heal itself, which I've said a number of times already. Number two is that our bodies have self-healing, self-regulating mechanisms, and we just have to make sure we access those self-regulating, self-healing mechanisms. So that means moving things out of the way to allow it to do so. And then the other aspect is the body's terrain. And terrain is really the area around our cells. So what we have to do and really focus on is allow the body to be able to, if we clean up that terrain, that area around our cells, then we're able to allow the body to be able to heal itself. So the analogy that I love to use is if we have a plant that's unhealthy, you don't do anything to manipulate the plant in order to help the plant to regain health. What you do is you change the soil that that plant is in. And if you change the soil, then you can help that plant to regain its health. And that's the same thing that we can do in terms of our bodies. So if we have cells, so our bodies are made of a number, millions, trillions of cells. And if those cells are unhealthy, what we do is we change the environment that those cells live in, so the area around those cells. And if we change that terrain, then we can allow those cells to then regain health. And that's really, like I call it, the ecosystem, the terrain of the body. And when we clean up that terrain, then we can allow those cells, and then we help the body to regain health. So that's really what terrain medicine is all about.
Wow. Well, it makes a ton of sense, at least to me. And I really like how you describe it as a terrain. It just makes sense. And so cleaning up the environment, we're talking a lot about our environment. And, I've had a few guests on the show that have mentioned, when we consider our environment of which we've been given. And I talked a little bit about, most people are familiar with the more common healthcare system of the traditional doctors and the traditional way of thinking. But that is the environment of which we've been conditioned. And it's not anyone's fault. It just is what we've been given. It's what we know until we start branching outside of, and we start visiting a doctor like you, a naturopath, right? We start learning that the way to navigate the grocery store is to shop on the outskirts and not just go into, and just have that awareness of, in order to start really doing the cleanup.
Yeah. Yeah, like for sure. For me, diet is such a huge component, because I really think our health lies in our digestive tract. So, those sort of advice in terms of, going on the outside of the grocery store is such significant advice, because what we want to be eating is, we want to be eating real food. We want to be eating food that's from the earth. And we don't want to be eating processed foods. And really, why we want to be eating real food is that our bodies are designed, like the building blocks of our bodies are designed to eat real foods from the earth. And that's what's going to help to nurture us. And that's going to be the building blocks to build a healthy body. So that's why we want to be taking in real food, is because that's how we're going to build health in the body.
Absolutely. And that's, again, going back to the basics, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's incredible. Thank you so much. We're going to move into our commercial. And when we get back, we're going to highlight a few more of these. Stay tuned. Are you ready to take control of your ride to wellness? Rev up with Driven Living. Visit www.drivenliving.com and buckle up for a journey. Get exclusive access to our Wellness Driven Life Show guest portal, where you can dive deep into the minds of our esteemed guests. Sign up for our newsletter and get insider scoops on these distinguished personalities. It's like having a backstage pass to their life-changing wisdom. But that's not all. You'll also receive a free hug. You heard me right, a free hug. An enlightening ebook from the Driven Living team. Discover the science-backed benefits of hugging yourself. It's a fill-up for your wellness tank. Because at Driven Living, we believe in fueling your journey to wellness, both physically and psychologically. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.drivenliving.com today. Welcome back. We're here with Dr. Melina Roberts, and we're discussing overall health, naturopathy, all of the things that really bring us back into balance. And something that I'm very interested in, Melina, knowing is, it's easy for so many of us to get out of balance. And when we talk about overall health and disease and what brings us to that, they say that stress is the number one killer, right? And so there's all of these stressors that are hitting our bodies, constant bombardment. The world is going at such a fast pace, right? And so, learning how to kind of tune that out and slow down is definitely a something that we need to bring our bodies to in order to avoid getting to that awful stage of some sort of disease in our bodies and in our life. But what would you say is some of those stressors that it really starts leading us to that point?
Yeah, so this is one of the things I talk about a lot, is the stressors on the body. And basically, we have 6 major stressors on the body that we need to identify and remove in order to allow the body to heal. Because when you have those stressors on the body, it's affecting your body's ability to be able to heal itself. So I call them sort of like blockades to proper healing. So those stressors are food sensitivities. So that's everything from like the major ones, the major food insensitivities are wheat, cow's dairy, white refined sugar, and industrial oils. Those are things that are going to cause the most stress on the body. There's definitely more, but those ones are the ones that I talk about the most.
Do you mind if we
Yeah.
just stay on that for a minute?
Okay.
Because,
Yeah.
as you know, there is so much controversy in
Yeah.
all of these areas, right? And because we're so familiar with, we just want to fight that, right? We're
Yeah.
like, I have been eating dairy my entire life, and there is no way that it's bad for me because I've survived this long, or all of the different things that
Yeah.
we can come up with as excuses, right? As to why we don't believe that that is a truth.
Yeah.
And why it's so difficult for people to accept even the new science-backed research that is
Yeah.
saying, yeah, even though we've been telling ourselves this for over 100 years now, it is not, in fact, the truth. It is not
Yeah.
the case. And so, how do you address that with some of your clients when you come across this? I'm sure there is a lot of people who really don't want to go that route. Is there any way that you like to lead people into an ease factor for this?
So yeah, because I've been practicing for so long, I've heard all of those excuses. And so my approach is always, well, I do testing. So I can show them in the testing that certain foods are weakening their systems and not working for them. But even if they don't show up in the testing, I still suggest removing them from the diet, because even if they don't necessarily notice, like, because what people expect is that as soon as I eat this food, then it should make me feel bad. Like, that's how I would know that the food isn't working for me. But the challenge is that in terms of foods, it can be causing inflammation in your body, whether you feel it or not. And that's a challenge, right? Is that you might not have necessarily digestive issues, but I think a lot of people do have digestive issues. And one of the ways that we can tell if people have digestive issues is not just gas and bloating, but in changes in the bowel movements. Like, what do the stools look like? So it's a question I will ask all my patients is about bowel movements. But we also see it in terms of inflammation. So the body can be all inflamed, and I run some tests that I run in my clinic, and we can see that the system is inflamed, whether they feel it or not. And so like whatever they're coming into the clinic with, there's always some imbalances that can be rectified by cleaning up the diet. So diet is a huge part of people's healing journey. So I always describe it as food is our building block, and we got to make sure we're supplying our body with the building blocks it needs in order to repair and heal.
I
And
love that. So you really show them the proof.
yeah,
And so you're like, I know that you don't want to accept this, but let me show you exactly what it's doing, because you're not going to feel it and sense it right away
yeah,
unless you have a very sensitive
yeah,
body.
yeah.
Like I have that with systemic lupus. My body, like
Okay.
I call it my superpower though,
Okay.
because if I have a beer, I feel awful
Yeah.
afterwards. So like it's very automatic where I'm like, okay, that's not working out for my
Yeah.
body. So, but for a lot of people, that's not the case. And it
Yeah.
does take a long time. And it's taking years and years of this buildup
Yeah.
for it to show up as something differently in the body. And then it's kind of too late, right? So I think it's really impactful that you show people through, blood work, stools, etc., or the consistency that they're experiencing with bowel movements or what have you,
Yeah.
to show them, well, this is how it shows up in your body, and this
Yeah.
is what is not working. And these are some things where we can help get that regulation and go to that terrain aspect of
Yeah.
medicine and healing.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I would say about that, what I really appreciate is shedding the light on that with those tests and that knowledge, is it really debunks so many of the fads that we have. We have the keto diet, we have this, and it's easy to go off of those major fads where there's thousands or more people that are experiencing it and claiming it to be this impressive miracle diet, right? Whereas it may be good in short term for a body, but it's
Yeah.
not good in longevity.
Yeah.
And so there's so many of those out there.
Yeah, I usually talk about like bio individuality, that everyone's system is different. So everyone's diet also is different. So how one person reacts to a food might be different from how another person reacts to a food. So you really have to figure out what works best for your system, as opposed to following some of those fad diets. But I think some of those fad diets, they sometimes have some, that there's something beneficial about them. I think a lot of them, what they help to do is they help to remove processed foods,
Mhm.
which are hugely problematic. And so I think cutting out processed foods is an excellent way,
Yes.
regardless of what you're doing. And a shift towards eating real foods is always going to be beneficial, regardless of sometimes it, like things can be beneficial for short periods of time, as opposed to what do you need for longevity.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's definitely beneficial aspects, just like you're talking about. It's leading us in the right direction,
Yeah.
or at least
Yeah.
educating. It's a beginning of an education
Yeah.
that we didn't have before. And I think that so much of that is really coming to the forefront, and it's an awesome thing. And it's going, like you have mentioned a couple of times, but back to basics. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's from the earth is what is
Yeah.
really, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? And as long as you stick to that, you're very unlikely to go wrong
Yeah.
when it's things that are stemming from of what nature is providing for us. We're coming to this world and on this earth, and it's all given to us, and you don't
Yeah.
have to necessarily reinvent the wheel, right? But we are
Yeah.
creatures of creation, which is how we came into these processed foods and all of these new ideas and the coloring that we put in our food, but with maybe good intention, and at the same time realizing that it's not good for us.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's that knowledge and that learning, the education that is starting to really roll in. So
Yeah.
now I threw you a little off track with all of that. And
Yeah.
so let's get back on track
Oh,
and go
yes.
into the next stage of a stressor that we come in
Yeah. So
contact with.
the other stressors are immune challenges. So that can be like bacterial overgrowths, fungal overgrowths, parasites, viruses. All of those things can be immune challenges on the body. There's heavy metals. So we can get a lot of heavy metals through our foods, but we can also get them from metal amalgams in the mouth. That's probably one of the most common ways that we're getting exposure to heavy metals. And then
Can you shed a little bit more light on that? Here I go
okay,
stopping you again.
I know.
But it's on my own
They're big
curiosity.
topics. I'm just trying to grazing over.
So when you talk about the metals you said it's the most common. Can you just shed a little more light on that? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I think that in terms of dentistry, especially in terms of bioregulatory medicine, we really actually talk a lot about dentistry and how what happens in the mouth can be affecting the rest of the body. But one of the things that's very commonly used, and it kind of frustrates me to even see them still using it, but those metal silver amalgams that are in people's mouth. They will slowly over time, they will basically get into our bloodstream, and then we get that high amount of metals in our system. So there's definitely
Mhm.
different exposures in the environment, but putting metal amalgams into people's mouth is one huge exposure of mercury that just builds
Wow.
up in our system and can cause a lot of problems in terms of how our body function, because we're not supposed to have any heavy metals in our systems.
I'm glad I asked because and maybe this is really beneficial to the audience because I don't ever think about it. I think I had one of those tiny little silver fillings or what have you when I was like a teenager.
Yeah, and so you can
Long
think of
time
it
ago.
as slowly leaching into your system over time.
So
And
how does one, so with that knowledge, is that something that you can, have extracted and replaced? Like, do you deal with that?
yeah, so I will refer them to a biological dentist. So a dentist who can remove those metal amalgams safely. So they have a lot of things that they put into place. So they put dams in, they use like vacuums that help to extract it. You have to make sure that the person who's removing those metal amalgams knows what they're doing. Not just any dentist will remove it, because they can make you sicker if they remove them
Sure.
inappropriately, because they
Yeah.
could be drilling into those metals, and then you have more more mercury that's causing more problems than when the amalgam is right in there. So I
See, that's
usually refer
fascinating.
them. Yeah, yeah,
And it reminds me, so I've had a guest on the show that talked about she's very passionate about breast implants
yeah,
and all of the crud and toxins that are actually within the whether it's I don't know a whole lot about them,
yeah,
but
yeah,
and then the same thing, you have
yeah,
to go to somebody who knows how to take them out
yeah,
properly
exactly.
and professional, because
Yeah,
if it's leaked, you're in a big load of trouble,
yeah,
right? And so
yeah.
people don't think about that. So I'm really glad that I brought it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, so yeah, in terms of dentistry, like we have like dentists that we refer to make sure that everything is done properly, because there's a lot of stuff that happens in dentistry which is not that they're taught in regular dentistry school, that is really not healthy for the human body. So
See, and it
from
just furthers your knowledge. And
yeah,
I'm fascinated too because there was one point where you came across that and you learned that and you were like, holy geez, this is another aspect of exposure
yeah,
that
yeah,
we
exactly.
are coming into contact with. And because I know this, when I have a patient, now I have to be able to refer them out
Yeah,
to like
yeah.
the proper person
Yeah.
so they get it taken care of properly.
Yeah, because yeah, there's dent yeah, 'cause and I put that in my intake form too, right? So metal amalgams, root canals, fluoride, right? Like those are like all three major problems in terms of conventional dentistry.
Wow.
So that's so where was I was at
I think we're on 3 now.
heavy metals, and then yeah, heavy metals, and then environmental toxins, which is huge, right? So environmental toxins even includes EMFs, so electromagnetic fields that we're going to be exposed to right now in terms of even doing this. But, no matter what, you live in a city, you're going to be exposed to those EMFs. So it's just doing things in order to help protect our systems and removing environmental toxins. Environmental toxins will be everything from the herbicides and pesticides and insecticides that are sprayed onto our foods, as well as the additives and colors that are added to our foods. So trying to avoid environmental toxins as much as possible. And then the other one would be physical stressors. So physical stressors can be if we are structurally out of balance. So chiropractic would be, we want to make sure that we're structurally balanced. If we've had some sort of injury, that can also be affecting how our body's functioning. And then number 6, which we can't really forget, it's really important, is emotional stressors. So this is mindset. This is what we think. And I would say that all of us, to some extent, have emotional stressors and what I call trauma that's on the nervous system that is affecting how our bodies properly function. And so those are all the things that we need to explore and look at in order to help to shift the body into balance. And we can do that all in a stepwise priority sequence in terms of my practice. But those are all the things that we're looking at. We're trying to identify, remove stressors, and then get the body into proper balance. And like this is, it can seem overwhelming, but when we do it we're doing some testing, we figure out exactly where those stressors are. We remove those stressors. Usually those stressors will decrease the function of certain organs. So then we want to increase the function of those organs at the same time. But, over time, we are shifting the body into a better balance point and getting people into a healthier space.
So this is the beautiful thing about going into this non-traditional sort of practice is that it takes your patient into all of these different aspects. You're calling them the 6 stressors that we have, which yes, can seem overwhelming, but yet it brings us to the root causes of why we are not fully working to our full capacity, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it dives a lot deeper, and it's not just hitting that superficial surface aspect. And so because of that, it really it helps us bring us into alignment a lot faster. But not only that, it's lasting. This is lasting change because you're asking questions like, well, what are you exposing your body to? What are you consuming? What is your environment like? How much time are you spending, at your computer or what have you? And then because of that, it's not that you like you discussed, you don't just stop doing that. We're in this world, right? We can't change everything. And we have to communicate this way, or we can choose not to. But, if we want to communicate this way, it's part of our environment. And it doesn't mean that you have to forego it or stop it, but it does mean that maybe it's going to be more time outdoors. It's more time is in, the sunlight or grounding and connecting with nature in order to bring more of a balance to you.
Love it. Yeah, exactly. I think that that's what we really need to focus on. yeah, I usually describe, like anytime someone comes in, normally I'm seeing patients who have like chronic conditions, and it's that, it's not that there's just one problem. I wish it was just one problem. I wish it would just be like, oh, just remove this food from your diet and your whole system would be better. But it's usually multi-causal, that there's a number of different things that are causing their system to be out of balance, and then we're working on getting your system back into balance. And realizing that our bodies are like these dynamic systems, that so many different things are influencing them. And health, I always describe health, that health is a journey, it's not a destination. So we have to just be always making mindful decisions about making sure that we move our health forward. And it's all the things that we do every day on a consistent basis that makes the biggest difference. It's not just, and the big example usually is like exercise and moving our bodies, right? You don't just do one workout and you're like, okay, well now I'm fine, right? It's all the stuff that you do on a consistent basis that will dictate your long-term and your longevity health, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I mean, consistency is certainly
yeah.
key. 100%. And I'm a little more harsh with the movement thing. I like to say you stop moving, you die, because in my
Yep,
experience,
it's
that's
true.
exactly what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Is we will not survive. The body is not
Yeah.
designed to not move. That's how our
Yeah.
blood is flowing, and that the heart is pumping, and it's
Yeah.
self-regulating, right?
Yes,
And so
exactly. Yeah.
all of that being said, that's incredible knowledge. You've brought so much value to the audience. I love that you do that within your practice. I certainly, want to come to your practice. Now, I am
Anytime.
not in Canada,
Yeah.
so I'm curious, do you extend your services virtually for a broader audience, or do you just serve your clients where you're at?
Yeah, so that's probably one of the challenge points, is that under my license, I can only see patients, at least for an initial consult, face to face. But I do have things like I have online courses. So if they wanted to dive into certain topics in more detail, people can, like, I have a heal the gut, I have a balance the thyroid, I have a detoxify the body, and I have one that's revolved around my book in terms of building a healthy child. So there's different ways that kind of people can access me, and then I also have like a YouTube channel and a podcast, right? So where people can get lots more information. I can't give medical advice on any of those stations. So just to let you know, when people are asking questions on those, under my license, I cannot give medical advice on social media. So that's always the
Yeah.
is that
Well,
people will send me their life stories and send me all their health concerns, and I'm like, I can't answer unless you're
uh,
like physically a patient of mine. But I have lots of resources and lots of information
yeah,
that I
you
can give
are,
people.
we live in such a cool day and age
Yeah,
where we get to create content to
yeah,
educate. And so it is gifting the world this at their own self pace, and so their own desire to explore and learn.
yeah,
And they're given that. And we have all of this knowledge at our fingertips. It's such a cool day and age.
yeah.
I
It
love it.
is. Yeah,
I
yeah,
love it because I'm a life learner, and there's always things. So thank you so much for doing that, because I think that there are practices out there, but not wanting to extend themselves in that form. It's not easy to put yourself out there, to put yourself on social media. It's
yeah,
a lot of work. It's a lot of learning that game,
yeah,
right? The playing
yeah,
field is a fire hose to the face. And so, but so that's why I'm thanking you for really putting yourself out there to give the world the knowledge and the know-how to explore that themselves, in order to take the reins in their own hands.
Yeah.
And that's really what we all need to be doing anyway, right? It starts with us because we are the ones responsible for ourselves.
Yeah.
And it all begins there and it ends there. And
Yeah.
so let's I've had up here on the screen for a little while where the audience can find you. Your website is www.advancedneuropathic.com. Now, curious, is that also your social handle? How do people find your YouTube videos, etc.?
So yeah, if you go to that website, up in the corner has all the links to my social media. But the one place where I spend probably the most time is Instagram. And so my Instagram handle is Dr. Melina Roberts. And then and I'm pretty sure my YouTube channel is also Advanced Naturopathic.
But
But
you
I
can
have
we
all the links.
find all of this on your
On my
website?
website, on my website.
Perfect.
Yes, exactly. You can go to my website and
Perfect.
the links are all on there. Yeah.
Cool. So, for our audience, all of that information for each one of our guests is in the description
Oh, perfect.
below.
Yeah.
So you can all find Dr. Melina there. And so one of the last question that I would ask you, Dr. Melina, is if you want to, do you want to shed a little bit of light on, because you've written a whole book on it, but when we start from the very beginning stages of life, you have 3 ideas that are really helpful for people.
Oh, so you're talking, I'm thinking, I'm just thinking if we go broadly or if you want me to go with,
No, you
to
have,
go.
there's 3 significant concepts you say
Yeah.
about the food introduction program
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
children, for all of our parents out there that might be curious.
Yeah. So basically what happened was that in terms of like when I had my child, I came across these 3 concepts that really became the foundation of my book. And those 3 concepts were that our microbiome, so it's that ecosystem of bacteria and fungus that live within our gut, that they are that it is like we form the foundation of that microbiome between birth and age 3. So we have like basically a limited amount of time to be able to build that microbiome correctly right from the beginning. So that to me
Mm.
was like, okay, well, we have to make sure that we introduce foods in the right way in order to build that microbiome right from the beginning. So that was one concept that I came across. The other one was that our organs mature at different rates. So as in utero, that our baby's organs, they start to develop when they're in the womb, but then they continue to mature at different stages as they age. So one of the significant ones is that our pancreas doesn't reach full maturation till around 2 years of age. And our pancreas is what releases the enzymes to help break down grains in the body. So that means that we shouldn't be introducing grains until after 2 years of age. So that to me was also so significant because one of the things that is commonly recommended for parents to do with kids is to do a first food, is to do like a cereal, which is a grain, which our bodies actually don't have the capacities to be able to break down until around age 2. So that also was a huge thing that I came across, which was like, okay, well, this is going to definitely influence how I'm going to be introducing foods to my child. And then the third really important concept is that our bodies are designed or hardwired to break down real food, not chemically latent, processed foods. Our bodies need to be taking in real food. And this is for sure, this is for babies, but this is really for all of us. It's just that, as babies, they don't have as much of the capacity to be able to distinguish between being able to fully be able to break down, and then our livers are going to be able to have to grab onto that toxic load and then move that out through the stools. They just aren't, their organ systems just don't have the maturity to be able to do that. So we got to make sure that we're giving our kids real foods right from the beginning. So, so from the beginning, you're introducing fruits, vegetables, meats, and then you're not introducing grains till after 2 years of age. So this is like completely different than the other food introduction concepts out there. And so those three things are what makes it distinctly different than any other food introduction program out there.
Yeah, I agree. And it makes a whole lot of sense the way that you describe it, of how our systems are built and developing, and
Yeah.
they're just not, you're not supposed to be processing things and at certain time periods because of that development factor.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Melina, this is incredible, all the research. I'm glad I asked you that, because I
Yeah.
think that that is a beautiful light to shed for the people out there who are just parents or their grandparents, and, to be able to pass that knowledge down to anybody that needs to hear it. So, that being said, Dr. Melina, you have been an amazing guest on the Wellness Driven Life Show. Is there anything else you want to share with our audience today?
Well, I think for me, it's always the important concept of hope, because I think that so many people have health issues, and they just think that there's nothing that they can do about it. This is something they're just going to have to learn to live with. There's no other solutions out there. I've tried everything, and I also think that the other concept is that there's not one right answer. There's a number of different ways in order to heal the body, but realizing that we do just need to harness that. We need to realize that the body can heal itself. And so, yeah, my message is always one of hope. It's just realizing that that we can heal, and we can heal from anything. I say that even in terms of cancer treatments. I think that we have a great concept that the body can create tumors, but we don't really have that great concept that the body also has the ability to break down tumors and to heal itself. And so I think that that's really an important thing for us to really recognize and understand, is that our body is trying to work with us. Our body is trying to heal itself, and our body isn't working against us. It just has some mechanisms in place in order to protect itself. And so you always have to realize that our bodies are designed to heal, and we just have to set up the right environment for it to do so.
Ah, so cool. Thank you so much for
Yeah, thank
sharing that
you. Thank
message.
you.
That is awesome. You've
Yeah.
been a fabulous guest on the
Oh,
Wellness
thank
Driven
you.
Life Show. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And want to make sure that our audience knows as well. Thank you for tuning in, because without you, the show wouldn't be possible.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Dr. Melina. This is incredible. Make sure to find her, check out her YouTube videos. She's obviously sharing this information, which is so powerful. And so check it out, grab the book, share it with the people that you know. If you're a parent or a grandparent, pass that knowledge down so you can really get people on that perfect first start. And thank you again. Goodbye for now. And we will see you next time.
Thank you so much.